Welcome to Permission Slip Granted, where we ditch the pressure to be perfect and start embracing the messy, beautiful truth of who we really are. If you're new here, we're so excited to have you, and we're so glad that you found us.
This topic is scary for me. I will admit it.
This isn't about being perfect.
Triggered by just hearing that word. Oh my God, I'm breaking her. Really anchored into what I did rather than who I am.
Authenticity lives in the imperfect, in the doing, in the becoming, in that growth, right? Destination minded versus journey minded.
Perfectionist in me was like, if I'm not going to get it right the first time, why do I even try?
Yes.
I never said that to myself ever in my life.
Literally dug myself into the ground trying to get that validation. Beyonce loved me because of all of the things that I've done, not truly who I was. And deep in your bones, like what you're capable of, and when you do fail, it hurts.
It was hard for me before to admit when I was wrong.
I hinder my self-growth. Who in here has met another perfect human being and who wants to be perfect?
Can we eradicate words from the dictionary?
Changed it from a perfectionist to perfecting.
Gave myself permission that day to let go.
It's like rain on your wedding. I really need to correct this about myself. Enjoy the ride. So much freedom on the other side of fear.
Perfectionism is other focused. What will they?
And I think self-awareness is so sexy.
And if you need additional help, we're always here.
Today, we're talking about perfectionism and why it's time to let go.
So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's talk about why done is better than perfect and how embracing our imperfect selves might just be the key to living a fuller life and a more joyful life. Are you ready to dive in, ladies?
Let's do it.
This topic is scary for me. I will admit it. I am a recovering perfectionist.
Right there with you. Right there with.
Can I share what happened right before we started recording? Would that be okay?
Absolutely, 100%. Okay. We're vulnerable here.
Right. We try to have some sort of game plan. We don't want to plan our conversations, right? But just kind of like, hey, this is where we're going with the conversation. And so Kristen gave us her part that she had kind of crafted that she wanted to share to start us off. And then was like, okay, and then I'm going to take the conversation. And in my head, I'm sitting here going like, no, this isn't about being perfect. And she stops herself. So like, way to go, because that was awesome. And she's like, we're just going to let the conversation go where it goes. And I just thought that was beautiful and like a perfect kind of opening of this conversation around perfectionism. So like, when did you notice first that you were struggling with perfectionism?
Yeah. So first of all, like my whole like before the show thing, I think I was triggered by just hearing that word. But when I noticed, to be honest, it really impacted me because my child started emulating my behavior. And they do as we do, not as we say. Kids will reflect us. They're the best mirrors of what we're doing in the world. And my oldest, she's so much like me in so many ways. And I think that for me, it was, oh my God, I'm breaking her. I don't want to be the person that my child has to heal from her childhood. And so when I saw that, I literally been able to, so it's been a 2-year journey for me. But we can talk and circle back to this later, but like letting go has been the best blessing in my life. And honestly, like I used to get anxiety over things, and it's really my whole thing stemmed from I had a chaos childhood. And I say chaos because there was clutter everywhere. There was never any place for me to feel that I actually belonged. So I was always trying to be seen. And I think it was the more that I did, the more I was seen. The less that I talked, but I actually performed, I was seen. So it really was something that I didn't even know. It was my subconscious was coming out, and I was treating people in my life. I think I had high expectations and nobody could meet those expectations. And it was just almost, I want to say it was almost paralyzing in a way. My self-worth, I think, was really anchored into what I did rather than who I am. And yeah, and I think just the journey of self-reflection, self-awareness, reading those books, those self-help books. I hate the name of that, like self-help books, but I want to rename it. that section in the library. It's I want to call it self-growth.
Yes,
Yeah, I was
absolutely.
about to say that.
Yeah, and I think it's just like there was always been this like negative connotation about, oh, I need help. But I feel like we all need help in some way, shape, or form. So why is it positive or negative? As long as you're chasing the better version of yourself, isn't that what matters? Yeah.
Yeah, I loved what there were a couple of things that stood out to me. First of all, so many P words, right? So we've got perfectionism, and then you talked about performing, which I think very much ties into perfectionism. You cannot have an authentic expression within perfectionism because you are trying so hard to control everything. And that's not where authenticity lives. Authenticity lives in the imperfect, in the doing, in the becoming, in that growth, right? Whereas perfection is so destination minded versus journey minded. Uh, and then you talked about paralyzing, like, yeah, because it stops the growth, right? It's not what's the word I'm looking for? God,
It doesn't help you
it doesn't.
perpetuate
That's not the
momentum
word.
forward.
I'm gonna
Yeah, I
remember.
know, but I know what you're saying.
It's Yep. It's all good. It's all good.
I literally just had a conversation with my husband. It was literally a few days ago, and I told him, "You're the first person in my life that ever taught me how to dream," because I was so focused on being in the present and what I emulated in the present. And I'm at this place in my life now where I've let go so much that I am actually able to start seeing my future, that I am now able to start having dreams, that I feel like I can get there because my fear is gone. Because there was this fear that was limiting me before. And I really connected it with that recently in knowing, oh my gosh, I just want to try, because if I try and I fail, I learn. And then I'm going to try again. And I think before, the perfectionist in me was like, if I'm not going to get it right the first time, why do I even try?
Yeah.
So perfectionism and you're saying was holding you back.
Oh, immensely. And here's the crazy thing. Like, I've heard many people say, like, Kristen, you do so many amazing things. You could do anything. And I was in the shower the other day and it was like, I can fucking do anything. Yes. I
Yes.
never said that to myself ever in my life. And I'm 40 years old. Okay. For transparency, that is the first time I've ever had that level of positive self-talk. And I said it out loud. And normally I'm not that person, but I'm like, I can fucking do anything. And I'm in the shower. I'm like, you're in your mind and some people seeing whatever you do. But I think in the shower, I'm one of those people. And I'm sitting there like, I've done so much this year.
Yeah,
Yes.
that right there is a true shower thought, right?
Yeah.
Amen. No pun intended. But no, that's awesome.
I would love to get Sydney's take on perfectionism. Is it something that you've struggled with at all?
Yes, so in childhood, I don't really know why I was like an overachiever. I knew in my bones that I I had a great calling on my life. I was going to be a part of something really big. I just didn't know what it was. So I thought the sky was the limit. And I had my hands in literally everything I could think of. Any extra time that I had, I did. And most of my perfectionism, I think, was rooted in dancing. And dancers, they strive for perfection. And I wanted the approval of my dance instructors, and I never really got that in childhood. And so I just, literally dug myself into the ground trying to get that validation from other people instead of myself. And then once I achieved things, I got attention from others, and then that kind of fueled me. And then when it came to like when I got engaged and I felt like I felt like my fiance loved me because of all of the things that I've done, not truly who I was. And so, and now I'm not going to say that I don't struggle with that, because I still like have some thoughts here and there about achievement. but I am letting go and just basking in and just dabbling in my self-discovery and who I truly am. And coaching has really helped me with that, I will say. But yeah, I side with Christians, just like learning how to let go. And it's not like it's a daily thing for, for recovering perfectionists, because little things can trigger you, especially when you know your potential and you know in deep in your bones like what you're capable of, and when you do fail, it hurts. It does. But it's not, you remind yourself it's not the end. And yes, you can fucking do anything you put your mind to. That
Yes.
instead, like what coaching has brought for me is it's failing forward. Failing isn't putting me behind. It's actually setting me up for success in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a daily practice. I have this I don't want to say, I don't want to minimize another struggle that anybody else has, but I think of alcoholism and this making a choice every day not to do that. And where for me, my literally the thing that I have to tell myself, because I have to catch myself in the moment and I have to have a mantra inside my own self to let go. And when I'm feeling that urge, like, oh, I need to get involved because they're not putting the plates on the table the right way, or, oh, I need to get involved because the clothes are folded this way, or, my husband will be cooking dinner and I'm like, oh, cringing in the background. I literally have to make the active choice to catch myself in that moment, realizing that I'm coming in out of my subconscious behavior in the past to control the situation, right? And I have to tell myself, it's okay, Kristen. This is not your job. You are not needed in that. And it's literally, it's a daily thing for me. And it's not something that I think that I'll ever overcome. But I think for me, it's just being aware of when you're in your triggers.
Yeah.
And I can tell, I will be honest and say, like, I've had situations where I'm literally in the minute and then I'm like, oh shit, back up. Oops, beep, 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 do over, And then the repair. There's a beautiful thing about repairing with the people that you actually get in and then you realizing you're hurting them. It's, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna trust you have this. I'm gonna back up. This is your task. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And it goes over very well. And I think that was hard for me before to admit when I was wrong.
Absolutely. I agree with that too. Like something that came up with me when you were talking was when I try to control situations because I think I can handle everything. And I realize that I hinder my relationships. I hinder my self growth. I hinder other people in their self growth. And it really just doesn't serve anything, because like we've had this discussion before, like who in here has met another perfect human being and who wants to be perfect? Because perfect does not serve any sort of healthy human relationship, like whatsoever. Like nothing.
Can we eradicate words from the dictionary? Can we get rid of this
I
word
wish we
altogether?
could, because for real. So what I find interesting is, okay, Kristen, you're saying your perfectionism was rooted in that chaos of childhood and the need to control because you didn't know how situations were going to play out. And then Sydney's talking about having it rooted in this self-validation space. For me, perfectionism showed up as a survival mechanism, not so much from the chaos and control, but more from the, if I'm perfect, they won't actually look at me, right? Growing up in that high demand religious environment, I knew from 6, 7, I haven't pinpointed it exactly, but I knew that me as my pansexual witchy self did not fit within those guidelines, and I wasn't safe at church, and therefore I wasn't safe at home because of the specific religion. I mean, it was not just a Sunday thing, it was an all day, everyday experience. So not safe at church, not safe at home. And I just tried to mold myself into whatever I needed to be in this religious environment in order to be safe. So I just think it's interesting that we all have struggled with this same topic, but coming at it from very different places.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do today? Like you guys asked me like when did I notice that was an issue for me? And I obviously I made the choice to, I don't want to be like that. I need to change this. And I feel like some people don't even realize that they're even in it. So if you guys could touch a little bit on when you noticed it was affecting your life, can you have something that like you can share, might help somebody maybe realize that they're going through it?
Kylie, you want to go first?
I'm really trying to rack my brain here on like, because I know when I started to become aware, but it wasn't necessarily something I was doing. I actually took a course. This was actually, so I always say my healing journey started with massage school. And then a couple of years later, I started becoming aware of energy and how we move through the world. And so when I took this course, it was called Dressing Your Truth. She talked about, within her system, 4 types, right? And it was the first time that I had positive connotations from an external source about the way my brain worked, my strengths, things like that. And so she talks a little bit about how my type within her system is a very perfecting type of person. And what I liked was that she changed it from a perfectionist to perfecting, because it was that small shift of like, oh, it's not that I'm trying to go for perfect, right? If my motivation is to think that I have the better solution, that's not how I want to move through the world. But if I'm coming at it from like an editing perspective, right? And I try to communicate that more, I've noticed that has really helped within my relationship. So it's not necessarily something that I realize, but if you do find yourself in that space of perfectionism, making that small shift to perfecting and having it be more coming from that energy of, I just happen to see a way that we can make this more efficient, right? But offering it as asking first, do you want help? Do you want, assistance? And if that person says yes, great, this is what I see. It's all about that intention. If it's coming from that rather than you're doing it wrong, it's going to land differently with the people in your life.
Yeah,
I like
something
that.
that's coming up. Yeah, something that's coming up for me here is really taking the courage to actually stepping back and actually having that conversation with people and letting go of judgment is what I'm really hearing in this whole conversation is I think for me there's a big emphasis on I get value based on the way people perceive me, therefore I'm judging myself.
Yeah.
And if we can do, I'm okay with who I am, I'm happy with who I am, they don't matter, I really feel it'll take that stigma off of performative perfectionism, like all the P's, the P words, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And it's really funny. A story came to my mind. I was remembering when I was getting married, and it was gonna rain that day, and I was like, oh man, and like so I instantly made a choice. I literally remember I was sitting in my dressing room with my girls, and I told them, I was like, I don't want to know if anything goes wrong today. If you guys notice anything, don't tell me. Just make sure I have a drink in my hand and then I'm fed. That's all I care about today, because if you start pointing out the little things, it's going to send me in a spiral. But I think me voicing that gave myself permission that day to let go. I actually was sitting here thinking, like, I thought it was my daughter, but I think it was that day. It started that day when I was actually like, I don't want to control this dynamic because I want to have the best fucking day of my life today. And I did. And it rained and there was things that went wrong and I noticed it, but I didn't tell anybody. And everybody still talks about my wedding to this day. So I'm like, I did a great job. Nobody knew. Only I did.
Yeah.
It's like rain on your wedding.
Yeah, it did rain.
Oh man, I didn't get in there. Good job.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I love you girls. That's funny. Did anything come up for you while we were chatting over there, Sydney?
I thought it was really beautiful what you shared, Kylie, about like shifting your mindset. And
Yeah.
what you said, Kristen, is like you basically you learn Have you ever heard the topic, like, people tell you who they are when they speak, and, like, when you learn to listen to yourself, sometimes things just come out of your, like, how you said, "It's gonna send me in a spiral on that day," like, you were listening to yourself, and you're like, "Wow,
Yeah.
I really need to correct this about myself." Like, I really, this isn't the type of person that I wanna live. This, the type of person I wanna be, and I resonated with that, after, like, I broke off my engagement. I was in a very manipulative relationship, and I told myself I was never gonna be in that position again, and I became manipulative myself in relationships. And that's part of where I was like, this part of the perfectionist part of me was like, I'm gonna be able to control
Mm.
who is, gonna be able to hurt me, and no one's gonna hurt me like this ever again. And I started it, what was it living my life? I was trying to figure out every little detail about a person. So kind of treating them inhumanely.
Mm.
It sounds terrible to say, but it really is kind of how it was. It was me, like, trying to figure out the inner mind of someone, but I would never be able to figure that out because I barely even knew mine. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so it was that, and also, oh yeah, something else came up, but I can't really think of it at the top of my head right now. But yeah, that, if it does come back to me, I will circle back. But I in my pain, I realized I was a major perfectionist in trying to control all of my relationships. And I was like, I don't want to be controlled in a relationship, just as what, like, the one I came out of. So why am I doing this to other people? I was like, this isn't how life is. And one of the main things that helped me get rid of my perfectionism is to do shit I was so scared of doing. And I used to be
Mhm.
afraid of heights. So I went skydiving, and I was like, I felt like, wow, if God didn't want me to die today and I didn't, like, okay, so, like,
Yeah.
I can enter a relationship not knowing all the details, right? And just enjoy the ride. Sydney, enjoy the fucking ride, you know? And
Yeah.
the more I start doing that, the more I realize, gosh, I really do enjoy life a whole lot better than
Yeah.
trying to control every little thing in my life so that I won't get hurt again. Like,
Y-
that's just never gonna work.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Control is coming up a lot in this conversation.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's definitely I think we have on the agenda later down the road, we're gonna have some myth busters. And one of the things that's coming to mind is like we only have control of ourselves. We can never control anybody or anything else other than the way we choose to react to something. So that when
Mm.
I click, when that has helped me too from in my healing journey, is realizing that I'm causing more stress trying to be a puppeteer
Right.
in my own life, and cutting those strings has actually made me more present. It's given me more time back for myself, and it's bettered my relationship. I can see my husband differently. He's even acknowledging me and the growth that I have had. I don't ask for, I'm not an affirmations person. I don't usually like affirmations. Um, but for him to stop and say, wow, babe, you handled that really well. I'm like, I did, didn't I? you know? Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. How
Yeah.
are you
And
feeling?
go ahead.
No, where were you going? You had a
No, I
thought.
was just thinking about parenting, and that, you know, I talked about how I struggle, and we'll talk more in depth about this in a future episode, but I really struggled when my boys were really young. And I'm kind of wondering if part of that is tied up in perfectionism, because we could spend a whole episode just talking about this, but raising them in that religious experience, right? And trying to make sure not only was I the perfect woman within this sphere, but that we were the perfect family, and that they behaved perfectly um, at church, at home. And so, just kind of piecing this together, but looking at when did I start showing up more as the parent that I want to, it's around that time that perfectionism started to take more of a back seat. Because I think, I don't think it's something we can ever fully break from. Because like you said, Kristen, the everyday conscious choice to be aware and to shift gears if needed, own up when, oh nope, sorry, I was overstepping, I'm gonna back up, I know you got this, right?
Yeah.
That's just something big that's coming up for me, is that connection between my parenting and letting go of perfectionism.
Yeah, what's coming up for me too is like freedom. Like we talked a lot about cutting the strings, our healing, and how much freedom it's brought to us. And there's so much freedom on the other side of fear. And like, you know, there's fear behind, once you let go of what's holding you back, there's so much freedom on the other side. I'm just shaking.
There is. Yes. One of the things that I've done with my daughter, because remember I told you guys initially that my daughter started having this own self judgment, and my little one does it sometimes too, but I'm able to correct her. I think she just does it because that's just her sign. But it's what we do is we intentionally get messy. Like my oldest, she never liked things on her hands. She hated the sand. She had sensory issues. But I started doing sensory play with her as much as I possibly could. I'm like, we're getting messy. We're getting paint on our clothes. We are going to have a foam fight. We're going to do all these things that make you so uncomfortable. And now it's her favorite thing to do. And I'm like, I created this, Kristen. There's a mess. It's okay. Breathe and walk away. But it's been it's a choice to literally choose something. Like I used to struggle about having my house clean. But I choose to put something out of place. And now I'm like, I walk on and there's mud on my couch because my dog just came in from a rainy day and ran across my couch. And normally I would have had a panic attack. And now I'm like, yeah, guess I have to clean that later. So it's really like you said, Sydney, the freedom that it has given me. And I don't have as much anxiety anymore because I'm not trying to control an outcome. I'm just trying to enjoy life. I'm trying to take the blessings of just being able to have the life that I have, that I'm alive, that I woke up today, that I have people around me that love me, that I have a home. That to me is so much more valuable than trying to worry about mud being on my couch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that type of therapy, is like doing the exact opposite of what scares you and saying, and how you cope with it, how you handle it. It's like reverse psychology or something.
Yeah, there's something that also live the life that you want to have, right? Practice in that and it'll start becoming your life.
Yeah.
It's that awareness, it's that action piece. Like it's so paramount. First, you have to know, you have to recognize it. So I'm going to say for me, I'm going to just say maybe what my symptoms were, and maybe anybody who's listening or watching this can maybe see like, oh, maybe I am struggling with that. So for me, I procrastinated out of fear of what could be, to a point where I didn't even try. And then there was a period in my life where I had low self-esteem, and I valued others' opinions over mine. And I actually sought them out. And I think for me, it was more validating when I was seen. It didn't matter what I did, but I needed to be seen. I feel like there's a level of burnout that happens because you're overworking, you're overdoing everything. You're that mom that's staying up till 3 a.m. because you want to get those bows right for the whole softball team. That right. I've done that, I still do that, but it's, that's just me knowing that I had a slip up. A difficulty in my relationship, not just with my husband, but also with other family members and friends, where I've hurt people by, I'm going to say biting off their head because they didn't do it exactly Kristen's way. And, you know, there would be like events that we would have. And I remember one person bottom lined me and she said, "You're being very rude and I would appreciate it if you stopped." And I was like, stopped in my tracks. And I was like, oh, maybe I am. Okay. Yes. I see you. Thank you. And I was like, again, what you said, Cindy, I didn't want to be that person. I don't want to be anything but a light in people's world. I want to be the person who's lighting people's flames, not the people who's blowing them out.
Yeah.
So I think for me, when I realized that, I think I have to say, I am actually thankful for people in my life who've called me out, because I think that's what really wakes people up. If you're willing to listen, if you're willing to listen to the things that the people that care about you the most are actually saying to you, it's like one of those things you're like, I can now see. I've taken the glasses off and now I can actually see.
Yeah. I've got a really good quote here from our favorite Brene Brown. I won't read all of it. I will put a link so you can read the entire quote, because it's a good, solid phone screen size quote from Gifts of Imperfection, which we've talked about as an awesome book. But yeah, so I'll just read part of it. Okay. Perfectionism is the belief that if we live perfect, look perfect, and act perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. It's a shield. Perfectionism is a 20-ton shield that we lug around thinking it will protect us, when in fact, it's the thing that's preventing us from taking flight. I'm going to go further down. Somewhere along the way, we adopt this dangerous and debilitating belief system. I am what I accomplish and how well I accomplish it. Please, perform, perfect. Healthy striving is self-focused. How can I improve? Perfectionism is other-focused. What will they think?
Good.
Yeah, that was a great quote. Yeah.
Yes. So, and she talks a lot, the parts that I skipped was where she's like, perfectionism is not, and like fills in the blank, right? Because there's a whole bunch of them. Like, it's not striving to be your best. It's not healthy achievement and growth. It's not self-improvement, right? Like, so there's lots of different things that she lists in there that it's not. So I will make sure that we get a link into show notes for that full quote.
Yeah. And if you haven't read the book or listened to the book, because it is on Audible, it is definitely one of those amazing self-growth books.
Yes.
It is one of the ones that I actually go back to a lot. And yeah, when I need a little pick-me-up, I reread her books.
Yep.
Listen to her podcast, follow her on social media. There's a lot of great stuff on Brene Brown.
Yeah.
There's
and if
a
you
lot of
really
great stuff.
like
I mean, like, go ahead.
No,
I was gonna say, like, there's so many people out there now. So like there's Mel Robbins. She's another one that's in my little pocket there where I like to go and read her. She's the one for the let them theory.
Yes.
What were you gonna say, Sydney?
Oh, I was like, and if you like this conversation, like, subscribe and join our community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'd like to hear from you if you're struggling with something, struggling with perfectionism, and you need support, or you need maybe a little bit more guidance. Like, be my guest, be our guest. Please come and share with us in our community.
Absolutely. So let's wrap things up, ladies. I'm gonna just say like 2 takeaways that I found from our conversation today. I think one of them is don't be afraid to bottom line. And that's a coaching term we use, but basically it's challenging, right? Don't be afraid to challenge someone in your life. Although, pick your battles, maybe not the stranger on the street that's yelling at you, maybe, but your partner, your family member. If you are on the receiving end of this people pleasing, negative, angry type of behavior, don't be afraid to challenge them and say, hey, I'm noticing blah, blah, blah. I feel blah, blah, blah. Don't be afraid to do that, and do it scared. Those are the 2 things.
Yeah, I think that's great. Do it scared is one of the best, I think, pieces of advice that I've ever received. Because it tells me that I'm trying. If I'm scared to do it and I actually go in and I do it, that I'm taking courage. Yeah. And then I'm building confidence, and I'm building a skill to fix what I don't like about myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good one. Yeah, for
What
me,
about
I'm
you,
just gonna say,
Oh,
I
sorry.
just wanted, no, you're fine. I just wanted to say, just continue to practice daily and just catch yourself when you're in the moment and reflect on what your triggers are. Because once you're aware of them, it's easy to deal with them. It's easy, not, I'm gonna say easy. It's easier to deal with them and change them, because you have to first know in order to be able to act to change.
Yeah.
Did you have a takeaway today, Sydney?
Yeah, I loved how we all shared our struggles with perfectionism and how they were rooted in different things and expressed differently. And I think self-awareness is so sexy, and it's so important to be aware of those, like you said, those triggers, and just be more loving towards yourself when you do find out those moments when you are more self-aware. Just it's important to become self-aware, but it's also important to love yourself during those moments as well. So I hope y'all thank y'all for sharing your stories today. That was really, really good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to remind everybody too, we are not saying that we are perfect or that we are fully overcome from our perfectionism. This is a daily struggle, and it is going to be a struggle for the rest of our lives. And we are giving you permission to forgive yourself and find a way to get over your own struggles as well. And if you need additional help, we're always here. Until next time, guys, we'll see ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us. Today, we called out perfectionism and gave you permission to let go of the pressure to be perfect. Choose progress, not perfection. We hope this conversation left you feeling inspired. If you love what you heard, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, and share this with someone who needs it. Join us every week for new episodes, more laughs, and more permission to do life your way. This is Permission Slip Granted. And before you go, here's your reminder. Stop waiting for permission. It's already yours. We'll see you next week.